Alright guys, we got the Tour de France running and I am very excited today about the project at hand, but I do have to talk for a couple minutes and give you some background. What I'm doing today is making a Kveik with a authentic Norwegian strain right from the farmhouse. Do you know what I'm saying? Now, I'm going to provide some links, but what you want to do is go to this Larsblog. You can just Google it. This one is called, that's not the right one I wanted to show, Brewing with Kveik. It's a whole write-up on brewing with Sigmund Gjernnes. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation. There is the man himself, and here is his yeast strain. Here's his yeast ring. Here it is right here. Now, what I have in my possession is some of this actual yeast. You can buy Sigmund Kveik from Yeast Bay or Omega, and you'll see it out there. But our good friend Ivar of the Chop and Brew crew, and he watches the Dono joints, he sent Chip some of this dried yeast. So here it is drying. Here's what it's like when it's getting very dry, and then you get these flakes, and you'll see that I have some of these flakes and I'm in the process of rehydrating them right now. I have the boil going right now, so I'm really excited. Now I have a Kveiking Blend Imperial Yeast video that might be out before this one. That beer is currently on tap. It's very tasty. I got a lot of good flavors from the yeast blend, and what I'm doing today is making the exact same beer, same wort, hopefully roughly the same gravity, same hops, all that's the same, except I'm going to use the Sigmund Gjernnes Kveik strain, and Ivar says to ferment that thing, when I translate the centigrade, it's 100 plus Fahrenheit. So he says the main thing is to pitch it at that temperature, because then it'll just kind of stay at that temperature and ferment in a couple of days. Pitch it at, 104. Make a starter in a jar with some wort. I have that going right now. Go easy on the hops. Most important thing is to pitch at 40 to 42 C, 104 to 107. I mean, that's just insane to me, but I'll see. That's what he says. Maybe I'll do it at 100 and see. I just get a little nervous. That's really warm. He says 1 tablespoon. The theory is that the pitch temp makes more flavor. The high temp stresses the yeast strains. They have to divide fast to survive. This is the method that brewers have done for hundreds of years. I say thousands. This is some notes that I got from Ivar. And yeah, only the pitch needs to be at that temp. Use the blanket around the fermenter. It should be finished in a couple days. Remember to taste it after 3 days in the fermenter. This is traditional. Oppsak. It's a Norwegian word. That is when the neighbors and friends come over to judge and give comments on the brew. So, this strain of yeast from Sigmund, it's a single strain, and it is isolated from, so this is how they cultured it to grow commercially, isolated from a sample of Kveik generously provided by Sigmund Gjernnes via Lars Garsol. That's the person who does that blog that I mentioned. What else? Fast fermenter, good attenuation, little earthy spiciness, marked tartness, unique ester profile of orange peel. That's the thing that you'll see kind of over and over again with this particular strain is orange peel. It can ferment from 70 to 100. So the commercial one, they always kind of cap it at 100, but Ivar's telling me I could go over. It will exhibit a slightly more restrained ester profile and ferment a little slower at cooler temperatures, and quickly produce a drier beer, more slightly pronounced ester profile at warmer temperatures. We recommend taking this into the high end of 90 to 100 Fahrenheit. So there you go. I'm really excited. The beer is, the volume and the gravity going into the boil was the same. I did the hopping the same. I actually have 20 minutes left in the boil. I'll cool it down. I hope that the yeast, I'm rehydrating it right now. I'll have a video clip of that after this. Hopefully it will sort of maybe even start a little bit of activity, but I haven't given it a ton of time, so we'll see. But it'll be fun to see how this comes out. Here is the yeast sent from Norway, from Sigmund Gjernnes himself. I believe. And what I've been told by Ivar is to use a tablespoon. I've got my tablespoon. This is some wort from the batch of beer that I'm making right now. I'm gonna have to set this down for a sec. That I'm making right now. It's being brought to a boil as I speak, but I took a little bit of it here and boiled it and then cooled it just to... I thought I could maybe do it without doing the boiling, more of a raw ale kind of a thing, but I thought I would go ahead and do that way just to be on the safe side. What does this smell like? It smells like mushrooms to me. How about that? Anyway, here we go. So what I'm doing is, we're just gonna put this in here. I might sort of swirl it around a little bit. The idea is to see if the yeast can get re-liquefied, kind of break up, and actually even if it will get active in the amount of time it's going to take to boil and cool and get it in the fermenter, which will be, you know, a couple hours. So this will just be loosely on there. I will monitor this and update you if they see some changes in that, but I gotta attend to the wort getting brought to a boil. So you can see there's some breakup of these chunks. I still have a chunk or so in there. I've been swirling it like this quite a bit. Doesn't show active signs of fermenting right now. It's been about an hour and a half. I mean, I'm assuming and hoping that this yeast is still viable. I have more of it in the fridge if it's still okay but not as active as it once was. But at any rate, I got 5 gallons of about 1048 or so. I'm gonna get the gravity reading in a bit, but let's go ahead and dump this in. It still is smelling like... So in the write-up, one of the write-ups on the BrewDay, the blog post, they talk about smelling the yeast jar, and then they talk about it smells like orange peels. I mostly just get mushrooms on this, and I'm just hoping it's still viable. I'm not really worried about not smelling the orange peels at this moment, but I hope that it's still good. If not, I guess worst case scenario is I grab some, I have washed a little bit of the Kveiking Blend. Then I would have a lot of that beer on tap. But let's hope this is going to work. And here we go. Give it a final swirl. A lot of chunks still. So the idea, I assume, would be if it gets fermenting and gets rolling around like you know that it does, it will just sort of break up all that yeast. But now I'm going to get it sealed up, wrapped up, covered in blankets, brought to my warmest part of the house. You know, the other thing is, I was going to mention, it'll be off the charts right now, but I noticed it was 116F, and then at the next time I looked it was down to like 94, so that's roughly what the temperature is right now. If I get it all covered and wrapped, it might generate some of its own heat. It'll be pretty warm. It may not be plus 100F, but it'll definitely be in that 70 to 100 Fahrenheit range. Okay, I am working on, hold on, I see a speck of dust here. This Sigmund Gjernnes Kveik beer. Before I get to the update, I did want to say something to the effect of, I am absolutely not trying to make a Norwegian Kveik farmhouse style beer in that process. That is not what I'm doing. I do not need to hear about how I did not yell at the yeast when I was pitching it. I did not use juniper boughs, juniper berries. There's definitely ways to make traditional beers. I think they're fantastic. I've had the fortune to drink some of them. They're super unique and great to try, but that's just not what I'm doing with the Kveiking Blend and now with this beer. I just wanted to see what the yeast could do. Now, back to this beer. It did not take off as quickly as I was led to believe. I made that activator type thing. That did not show much activity. Pitched the flakes, or pitched all of that into the beer. Was not fermenting by 10-12 hours later. The next day, not really either. I swirled it up. I did see some CO2 buildup, some foam buildup after I swirled it, so then that gave me some hope that it was actually working. I added a little more yeast anyway because I was nervous that something might have gone wrong with the yeast and maybe it had kind of gone really dormant or something. Long story short, it got going. I pitched it at 95 Fahrenheit, but then it probably was like 80 or so once it actually started going more aggressively. Probably fermented in the mid-80s, would be my guess, much like the Imperial Kveiking Blend. Did not get up to 100 F as Ivar was suggesting. That could be another time. Finished at 1.009, and I am trying it here. I get a real yeastiness. I think that's pretty normal. It's a very fresh beer. It's about 8 days old. I was saying things like sour pineapple, lemony, bitter from maybe the yeast, but also like a ripe orange flavor. And then I thought I remembered reading that this strain can give you a orange rind character, and I thought, oh, okay, that could be. I think I'm getting that. If that's what this is, this bitterness, this oranginess, sure, I could get that. It's pretty yeasty right now. I think it might get, well, I don't think these beers get clear, but it might get clearer. On the side of trying to use this yeast in another batch, this is what I've done. I've been told to just collect the slurry. You could dry the slurry on some paper, put it in the oven, get the flakes. You could do that. It's recommended to not wash it. So I just sanitized these two jars. This is a pint jar. This is a medium Tostitos chunky salsa jar. Approximately the same volume. I think I've been told that really even out of one of these, you might only use a couple teaspoons or something like that. I'll see, when I get to that point, I might consult with Ivar and someone else and see what I think seems like a good idea. But the stuff looks pretty good to me. It's not super truby. We'll see how it looks. I'm supposed to vent it because it still could kind of be throwing off some gas. But the beer is kegged. I just straight up kegged it. It's week old. The sample is interesting. I would like it to be a little less yeasty, and I think that might bring the bitterness down a little bit and the fruit character more forward, but we will see. Here we go. Always record.
Man, that is cool. If that's a method, that looks beautiful.
Yeah, some bars are actually doing it. What
Out
about
of
y'all?
tap or out of
Yeah, out
bottles?
of tap, and you have to wait longer, so it's kind of like a Guinness Nitro thing. You gotta wait,
Yeah.
but it's supposedly worth the wait. Slow pour. You guys do the slow pour?
Slow pour.
So we're checking in on this Sigmund Gjernnes Kveik. It's been a month. I brewed it almost a month ago to the day. I kegged it on about the 8th day, and on the 8th day, it was kegged. On the 7th day, I rested.
Yeah, you gotta rest before.
But then on the 8th day, I kegged. Oh, I just got it on my nose.
I did too.
Did you?
You did that.
I did the slow pour.
You did that super sick slow pour. It's just like.
Get off of my nose.
Yeah, I can. So one of the first things you asked was if it has either of the characteristics of either of the Sigmund Kveik beers that Brian shared with me.
2 of them.
Yeah, the Centennial and the Spotted Cow clone.
Okay.
This does, without having tasted it, it's got that nose that's kind of reminiscent of what I was getting off the Spotted Cow, but not that like sulfury side. It's almost like that like laundry, like dryer sheet, like really clean
Okay.
and almost like cottony, almost like tea bag, but not tea itself. Like, you know how like a dry tea bag just kind of
The
like
tea bag
has like a little dusty, earthy, but still clean, and that could be because like a tea bag also has the paper around it. But it has that, which is interesting. But it doesn't have that sulfury thing, which one of his beers, it was off-putting at first until you like swirled it out.
Remember you guys talking about that? This beer is so different than the Imperial Yeast Kveiking Blend.
Wow.
It also seems different than the Otterdal samples I had, and that was raw ale and different, quite a bit of differences.
Whew. Yeah,
But
this has a little of that kick though, right? It's got.
it just has such a strong and weird flavor that one of the characteristics of this particular strain is orange peel. And I get that. There's a fair amount of bitterness
There's something.
that is not from the hops.
Right.
And I believe it's from either the flavor from the yeast or the yeast itself. That still is maybe.
And it's bitter and it almost borders on tart.
Yes.
Right? It's not
sure.
acidic, but it's like
That's
chalky. It's drying. I like how you just said it's weird. And weird not in a bad way. Like weird like Austin's weird or used to be weird. It's got this
some
thing that
people-
does not taste
some people would
Beer.
certainly not enjoy this. I mean, some
true.
general
Yeah.
beer drinkers at large, Bud Miller Coors, they won't know what to do with this. They won't know what to do with
Yeah.
a lambic, a sour, many styles. But if you are used to funky, wild beers with bugs or just funky yeast strains, you might be able to get your mouth around this. But it's kind of weird. And I don't know, now it would be interesting to, well, so do you think it tastes at all like those other beers?
Yeah, I mean it really tastes fairly similar to Brian's Spotted Cow Cone.
Oh.
I think his went a little like 5 yards further into the weird and the funk, and like in that video you note I call out sulfur, way more of this like drier, sheety kind of almost electric fire is what his kind of wheel compared to like that smell of like a hot electronic, which is not something you want in most beers. This doesn't go that
Didn't
far
he say
at
he fermented at 95 or so? Or one of them he did? Or maybe
I think
both?
both of them.
This one was
'Cause he
more
had a
like
sous vide.
85.
Yeah.
That might make a little difference, possibly. But I think what I'm going to do is this will probably not be the end of this video because I talked to Ivar, explained what I thought this was tasting like, and he said, well, these beers will change after a couple months. Presumably, maybe for the better, if I think that there's something about this that I'm not crazy about, if I wish it was a little bit cleaner. Then again, it might get a little cleaner, and I might say, oh, where did the funkiness
Where'd the funk go?
Oh,
What's up with this
guys?
the Spotted Cow I have?
It's boring. This beer did finish at 10:10. If there's any sort of fruit or juiciness, which may sort of be there, it's not from the hops. It was a neutral bittering hop that was a low rate of bittering. Did not calculate the IBUs, but it's supposed to be low. And as I understand, there's not supposed to be wild stuff in this yeast strain. It's just a particular yeast strain. It's not like there's bacteria or other souring organisms or any wild. I mean, would it be considered wild yeast?
Some people compare the Kveik to like a SCOBY. Or a Scooby, or however you say it, that you would
SCOBY.
use for, because it's got this presence of yeast, but it's got this
Well, that's a
presence of
symbiotic
other
colony
things.
of bacteria and yeast. So
Right.
you're saying maybe in some of these things there's a couple little funky critters.
And not enough to like drive it completely undrinkable. But I'm sure in the right conditions or wrong conditions, depending how you look at that relative scale, that it could. So I don't know, but
Well,
I just saw this list today that I didn't get a chance to read all the way through from the Larsblog to be like, I mean, it's like 54 different documented strains. So I want to
Cool.
see like if some are way cleaner. But you almost hate to over science it, right? Like, oh,
well, they don't science it.
yeah.
They don't science it at all.
They're
That's
not like, let's plate it and count. It's
They
kind of
don't
like,
know.
oh,
They
dude, if
don't
you didn't like the way it tasted, use your
often do
neighbors.
the gravities or temperatures or any of that kind of stuff. Well, let's wrap this up for today, and we'll check in with this beer maybe in like another month.
It's good. It's refreshing.
See.
You know, it seems like a weedy,
Never had a beer.
funky
Never had a beer like it, right?
Negative.
Pretty unique from just the crazy yeast. And I collected the slurry, and I'm gonna make another beer soon. My next beer I would make I would use this slurry. I might just change up the grain bill a little bit, maybe the hops a little bit, but just kind of keep using yeast and try to use less of it. See, I thought maybe I overdid it on the yeast, and I wondered if that is a factor in how.
In a couple of my
crazy
videos, people have pointed out like you are way over pitching this, but I'm just kind of going with what Ivar said.
Yeah, I have the slurry, and I might just take a teaspoon, maybe a heaping teaspoon of slurry and dump it in, and then wait a day and see if it gets going. So
yeah, because I mean, as fast as it generally starts, your lag time is still, like you said, you can dose it again in the same amount of time that you would wait for another yeast
mine
to kick
took
off.
longer than expected, so that's why I did put some more in, and I might have put more than I should have. So that's why this next time I would try to do less and see what happens. But this is what it is so far. Pretty unique. It's gonna take over. Kveik's gonna take over. People are gonna be making all the pale ales, IPAs, all the just production beers. I bet. There's gonna be a lot of it just cranking out.
One of the recipes he's fine-tuned for me would look like a stout if it was a clean beer. So I'm looking forward to doing that during the winter time. I don't know how I'm gonna get it warm, but turtle filter,
that's gonna be hard in Minnesota. All right, check in later. It's the same
But we're
beer.
not necessarily drinking all three.
It's the same. That's the secret. It's all the same beer. We just say different things. Okay, so really quick, you will have just seen us trying this for the first time on camera.
Oh, we've had this.
Yeah, and at the end of the video, I was saying, man, I don't know. I think there's so much yeast in this thing. Maybe we'll just try it again. And here's follow-up. This is our first beer of like these, and he's got a bunch of stuff, including some stuff from Norway. I think I felt like it's changed since we've tried it. I was gonna look it up. It has to at least have been like 3 to 4 weeks.
It's got a tartness to it. Right.
Yeah, I think so.
It's also got that thing, and I think we probably talked about this last time, that kind of laundry dryer sheet thing that Brian's beer had.
Oh, I don't know about dryer sheet, but laundry, like
I don't know what else.
wet laundry.
Like just linen, yeah.
Or like mustiness, almost like a gym sock.
Yeah, it's
maybe it's not that much different.
You could say it's very lemony, and not just the lemon candy part of lemony, but like lemon pith, lemon peel. But it's got some funk somewhere in there.
It's supposed to be orange rind as one of the things that this strain has. I think it has that. Now, what we will get to in a short order here, but you will have to wait, I don't know, a couple weeks maybe to see, is what I'm calling the Sabro Kveik, which is this same yeast, but different hops, and it's a very different yeast flavor in that beer. I mean, the yeast is almost nondescript compared to this, where the yeast is just overwhelming you with its flavor. So, at any rate, to summarize, this was my first experience with a single strain of a Kveik yeast. You saw the Kveiking Blend from Imperial, which was a little bit more of a clean presentation, almost kind of Saison-like, very enjoyable, nice kind of clean beer with unique flavors. This is weirder foray into the world.
Yeah.
The next is I have another one with the Kveiking Blend, and then I have another one with this Sigmund Gjernnes. So
Which Gjernnes isn't so much a single strain.
Okay, well that's
I'd have to look it up.
It's not a blend.
It's not a blend, but it has. I'll look it up. But it has. I think it has multiple yeast strains.
I mean, they.
Right.
Maybe they all do. I don't. Or are you saying some don't?
Lars, no, some like this registry here that Lars keeps. Sorry to. Oh, Sigmund. It has 3 strains.
Oh.
It has 3 strains.
Oh.
None of which are bacteria, according to.
Right.
But no, there's some up here that have like 5 strains, 4 strains. 10 is the most, but then some will have bacteria among those strains. So
okay.
that's kind of, yeah, we won't get into it. Watch Chop and Brew to see Ivar rant.
Watch all
poetic.
these Chop and Brew videos. So this is the first one of this nature. My second Kveik video, there'll be at least, I mean, there's 2 more being wrapped up tonight. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.